So last time on the Media Wiz, we talked about a Kim Possible video game, and since we're not doing another video game review right away, we're going to be talking about two things I am very familiar with: Powerpuff Girls and crossover comics. 2 years ago, I looked at the 6-issue crossover comic series, Super Secret Crisis War. The comic focused on a large-scale meeting of characters from Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10, Samurai Jack, and Ed, Edd n Eddy. The story was fun, the characterization between all the different clashing personalities was great, and the artwork was really well done. A year after that, I did a follow-up vlog video talking about the spin-off comics that consisted of side stories that took place in other Cartoon Network shows, such as Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, Billy and Mandy, Foster's, and Kids Next Door. While I think the entertainment factor really depended on if you were a fan of some of these shows, it didn't stop me from thinking that these were pretty fun side stories. But now we look at the proper sequel to Super Secret Crisis War, and this time the Powerpuff Girls take center stage in Super Smash Up. Returning from Super Secret Crisis War is Derek Charm, who did a lot of the art once again, but this time he was also upgraded to head writer as well. Joining with the writing credits is IDW Comics regular and Unstoppable Wasp creator Jeremy Whitley, who also happened to have a hand in quite a few My Little Pony comics.
You see, more fandom spillover from Powerpuff to ponies, even in the comics.
That's not the only person who worked on an MLP comic in the staff. No, the same guy that did the lettering for this also did the letter work for the MLP Generations comics. Additional artwork was done by an online artist by the name of Jorge Malongo, who had a handful in quite a few comics like Hello Kitty, Peabody and Sherman, and of course the Cow and Chicken one-shot. Lastly, there's the editor, Sarah Gaydos, who seems to have worked at several different comic companies over the years, such as IDW, DC, and Oni Press, just to name a few. So will this be as good as Super Secret Crisis War? Well, I'm going into this fairly optimistic. Let's see for ourselves. This is Powerpuff Girls Super Smash Up, issues 1 through 5. Issue 1 begins with the city of Townsville, as it seems that some form of villainy is clogging up traffic. Multi-lane traffic jams? I didn't realize Townsville was near California. So what exactly is holding people up? It's Fuzzy Lumpkins gone plumb loco as usual. This time he has Miss Bellum thrown over his shoulder and says he's gonna force her to marry him. Let me guess, if the shotgun wedding goes through, he's gonna make her wear that outfit that he made her wear when he was the mayor, isn't he? Right on cue, the girls show up, but Fuzzy buys himself some time by shooting a cage at the zoo, freeing some lions who begin to surround the citizens. Let's consider ourselves lucky that M. Night Shyamalan had nothing to do with this comic, because then we'd probably get something unintentionally hilarious like the lion scene in The Happening.
What the heck was that clip from?
Oh, you boys should consider yourselves lucky that you don't know that many so bad it's good movies like The Happening. But the girls managed to save the people at the zoo, fending off the lions by turning into that giant fire cat from that Members Only episode. You know, the episode that was loaded with innuendo, which gives me an excuse to use this again.
Sexual innuendo.
As the girls fly off to save Miss Bellum, it turns out she actually saved herself. Yeah, she warned Fuzzy to let her go, and yeah, now she showed him.
And that's why Miss Bellum rocks.
Yet CN executives still thought it was a good idea to get rid of her in the 2016 show because she was sexist? Even though the girls are ready to call it a day, Professor picks them up and says they're late for some special meeting. With who, you may ask? With Dexter Boy Genius. With some nice little continuity between Super Secret Crisis War, good to see that they apparently kept in touch. Via interdimensional email, as they put it. And as you'd expect, Professor is just so overjoyed to meet a fellow man of science. It's an honor to meet you in person, Dexter. I can't wait to get a tour of your lab.
Oh man, could you imagine if the professor met up with Jenny's mom? Or what about the entire possible family? With a rocket scientist father, and a brain surgeon mother, and Kim's genius twin brothers, and the genius grandmother?
And apparently, as a part of some agreement, Dexter would give them a tour of the lab as long as the professor gives him his own personal vial of Chemical X, which he seems pretty happy to do. Wow, this family is really lenient with who they share their Chemical X with. I mean, after someone like Mojo's gotten his hands on it so many times, you'd think that they'd be a little bit more cautious with who they share it with.
Yeah, but if they did that, then we wouldn't have a story, now would we?
So after giving Dexter some Chemical X, he proceeds to give them a tour.
Ever since our multi-dimensional adventure, I've been picking up trails to various worlds left behind by Vilgax and Aku's robots. By following these trails, I can discover entryways to various realities that make up our multiverse. These windows all connect to a giant database that in turn connect to a giant molecular transport machine.
I'm thinking of calling it HBO Max.
After a cute reference to Monkey and Professor once having Mojo as a lab monkey, Dee Dee enters the story, and it's cute that Bubbles is the first one to discover her, because they're both bubbly blondes that have pigtails. I see what you did there. Dexter pulls his usual, "get out of my freaking laboratory" routine, but she wants to hang out with his new superhero friends. Dexter urges that she leaves, but before she does, she wants to show off her dance moves. Now, to be fair, Dee Dee does have some stellar dance moves. I mean, how could we forget this masterclass? But uh-oh, you break it, you buy it SpaghettiOs. Dee Dee trips and knocks over the vial of Chemical X, which turns her into a monster. Chemical X seems to pick and choose how it affects certain people. Some people take Chemical X and they just get superpowers. Some people take it and they mutate into hideous monsters. At first they try to calm her down, but that clearly isn't working. They then try to contain her and stop her, but she ends up running into one of the interdimensional windows and teleports into another world. What happened to her? She must have accidentally transported herself to another dimension. I know I already used this reference in the MLP Generations review, but screw it, I'm gonna use it again.
Star vs. Fanboy would be very proud you made that reference.
And so, issue 1 ends with a setup for the next issue as Dee Dee ends up outside the farmhouse from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Issue 2 begins with everyone relocating to the professor's lab in Townsville, and with some quick scientific ingenuity, they're able to create a sensor that'll pick up Dee Dee's trail, and they give the girls bracelets that'll help them jump from universe to universe. While all that's going on, we cut over to the Bags at their farmhouse. Muriel tells Eustace that they're going out to an anniversary dinner, and Courage will be left at home with a dog sitter. Why? Don't you guys usually take him everywhere you go, even if he doesn't need to be there?
Yes, but if they did that, then we wouldn't have a story, now would we?
The girls just happen to arrive, and as you'd expect in the grand Courage tradition, Muriel mistakes the girls for the dog sitter, even though the actual dog sitter they hired appears to be Slender Man, decked out in a hipster fedora and ironic t-shirt going off of the picture in the ad.
I'd like to introduce you to Courage.
Oh god, is that what the girls are supposed to look like in Courage's art style? I mean, I guess it could be creepier. They could look like this.
Get that off the screen, please.
So as the Bags leave, the girls decide they'll wait for the actual dog sitter to show up, and then they'll go looking for Dee Dee. Until then, Courage thinks the girls are bug-eyed space aliens. Well, I mean, he ain't wrong. They do have big eyes. And considering what Courage usually goes through on a daily basis, I can't blame him for being skeptical. But Bubbles gets to work cuddling up the cute, fuzzy, pink little puppy. Yep, that's certainly something Bubbles would do. So now, the girls just sit around playing the waiting game for the dog sitter to show up.
This is the worst universe I've ever been to.
Believe me, you guys could have ended up in so many other worse universes, like 2016 Powerpuff Girls, or Thundercats Roar, or Teen Titans Go, or most of Cartoon Network's later 2000s programming. The dog sitter finally shows up, and instead of just trying to lie his way through this, he just opens up about how he collects dog souls for sustenance. As the girls are about ready to throw this guy out, Courage hides in the kitchen, just as Dee Dee shows up and scares Courage. As they run back to the living room, Bubbles tosses this antidote spray to Courage and says that if they spray Dee Dee, she'll turn back to normal. But he accidentally drops it and it breaks. And on top of that, Dee Dee ends up swallowing Bubbles' bracelet, and she teleports to another world. So the girls decide they'll have to regroup in Townsville and figure out where Dee Dee went. And before they leave, Courage realizes the girls weren't evil like he first thought.
Thanks for trying to help, Courage. It was very brave of you. Bye, Courage.
Huh, looks like they were good aliens all along. I guess things are never as bad as they seem. Before promptly being left behind with Trender Man over here. Bye, Courage. Just wait a couple more years and you'll get to hang out with the Scooby Gang. Issue 3 starts with Dexter flipping out on the girls, but of course they are given another bracelet thingy, and they continue the search for Dee Dee, who is now in the Cow and Chicken universe. As for what they're doing, they seem to be putting on a play in their front yard, role-playing as a knight and princess. Meanwhile, the red guy takes the role of a corrupt talent agent who just can't seem to find the next big thing. Until he spots Cow and Chicken. So just wait until TikTok and Instagram become huge. There are so many easy people to exploit and profit off of there. Chicken is a little skeptical of this, but Cow is more than ready to become a star. And what do their pair-of-leg parents have to say about this?
What have we told you, kids?
If a man offers you money, you get in his car. So as they drive in the back of a limo, about ready to sign a lengthy, incredibly sketchy contract, the red guy spots Dee Dee in her monster form and decides he wants to make her into the next big star, kicking Cow and Chicken to the curb. In enter the girls, and neither group seems surprised by the drastically weird-looking groups right in front of them. I mean, wow. Let's really take in this image. 3 little girls with giant eyes, no noses, and stubby hands who can fly are running across bipedal talking Cow and Chicken that are also brother and sister. Wow. Anywho, the girls say that they need to find Dee Dee, and Cow and Chicken just so happen to know where they're going.
He said he was going to make her a superstar. And we're coming with you. No offense, but we don't need a bunch of girls tagging along. This is serious business. Whoopsh. Point taken. Welcome aboard.
So they get to Heine Studios, which seems to have security that rivals that of your average dictatorship. And it's not helped that IR Baboon seems to be the head of security here. Since he has orders to keep Cow and Chicken out, the gang pulls the old stack up on each other's shoulders with a big coat trick, disguising themselves as a movie star who just so happens to look like Bubbles. It works as the heroes arrive just in time before Dee Dee signs the contract. But Red Guy seems prepared as he unleashes a mind-controlled I Am Weasel on the girls. But they manage to stop Weasel as Cow turns into Super Cow. None of this is making sense to you. That's perfectly fine, because neither did the Cow and Chicken TV show. But Dee Dee disappears once again. The girls are about ready to kick this guy's evil red ass, but he promises to make it up to them. Cow and Chicken want their superstar positions, like they were promised earlier, but Red Guy seems more interested in profiting off of the Powerpuffs instead. You two, ladies, you're through. The world craves new blood. I can't do anything about that. Now, you 3, I love the look. The different hairstyles, the color-coordinated dresses. Now that's something I can work with. Tell me, do you boys have representation? Call me. You know what I just realized? This issue of the comic becomes 10 times funnier if you imagine that the red guy is a metaphor for the people that run Warner Brothers. On to issue 4, we see Townsville is now under attack. Princess kidnaps the mayor, that one monster named Steve is leading the monsters in some kind of party.
Well, that's certainly not the first time a bunch of monsters were partying downtown in Townsville. Boogie Frights, anyone?
And him is turning everyone into clowns. Oh no, not clowns! Quick, everyone, run for your lives before they start rapping about magnets or bragging about how things float down in the sewers! But as Dexter and the professor watch as this transpires on the news, Dexter knows who can fill in for the girls while they're dimension hopping. The Justice Friends!
Hey, that's another thing that Members Only episode had. It's great to see the Justice Friends here again.
But while that's going on, we see where Dee Dee ended up next, the Foster's universe. While the Foster's gang are playing a game of hide-and-seek, Dee Dee ends up getting Blue spotted by Mac. But Blue manages to weasel his way out of this by making up some BS rules and saying that it's ultimate hide-and-seek. Yeah, I could definitely see Blue doing something like that. So Blue and Dee Dee run off to hide while Mac goes looking for everyone. And once they're hidden and out of sight, the girls show up.
Okay, it's been a while since I've actually seen Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, but I seem to remember that the Powerpuff Girls existed in their universe. I mean, they were referenced in the Halloween episode.
Frankie, have you seen my bow? Knew I should have been bubbled.
The whole superhero-themed episode that had a bunch of Powerpuff Girls references all throughout it.
The city is in turmoil, and I'm running for my life!
So, once again, the day is saved. Right sidekick!
Mojo Jojo even shows up in the very first episode of that show.
Some kids aren't that creative, so they just copy what they see on TV. What are you gonna do?
So this just seems a little bit weird to me.
On a side note, how interesting would it be if we actually got to see some imaginary friends from some other Cartoon Network shows? Like maybe the girl's imaginary friend from that one episode, or Koozie, or Jib, maybe? Anyway, after the girls get to see the rest of the Foster's gang, they start searching all over the house for Dee Dee. And I'll give Blue credit for one thing. He found a spot that no one ever would suspect, hiding in Duchess's room, before they end up getting chased out and running all the way to Mr. Harriman's office.
Blue, give it up. There's nowhere left to hide. You'll have to tag us first. Please, Dee Dee is our friend. She's mutated and bouncing through universes. We need to bring her back home and help her.
But of course, Dee Dee hiccups and teleports once again, leading us to our last issue, issue 5. As the girls regroup yet again, it seems that the professor and Dexter have reached out to some outside assistance, and lo and behold, it's Mojo.
Professor, you can't be serious. He's our greatest enemy. Well, he has helped us before.
Huh. Bubbles pointed that out before I could. Great continuity. But after everybody agrees that Mojo is just doing this for some easy money, the girls agree to let him help. And where did Dee Dee end up now? Shockingly, they wound up at Camp Kidney in the Camp Lazlo universe. Well, I approve, since I'm like one of the 5 people in the world that seems to remember Camp Lazlo fondly. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a hot take or anything, but I actually liked Camp Lazlo. But don't worry, if you weren't a fan of this show, it's not in the comic for that long. It's only a couple of pages. Since they find Dee Dee right away, trap her in Mojo's machine, and convert her back to normal. But as you'd probably guess, Mojo double-crosses the team and teleports off with the interdimensional bracelet that Dee Dee coughed up.
Ah, curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Once everyone's back in Townsville, Mojo hijacks some tech from the lab and beams out of there. But it seems the girls won't be alone in this fight, since Dexter and the professor seem to have been building some giant robot mech off-screen. Okay, since this is a big crossover comic, how awesome would it have been if the mech they were using was the mech from Symbiotic Titan? Raise your hand if you think that would have been awesome. So as they leave, Dexter tells Dee Dee to just hang back since she was the screw-up that got them all into this mess. But after a pep talk from the talking dog, she knows what she has to do. After that, we see Mojo's managed to trap the girls and the giant mech. How the hell did he detain that thing? As he reveals his plans to transform the multiverse into his image. Yep, look at this image. This is real. All your favorite faces from Cartoon Network redrawn as Mojo Jojo. This is a real thing in this comic. But uh-oh, Dee Dee shows up and saves the day with her trademark.
Really good plan, Mojo. I only have one question. What does this button do?
And like that, a self-destruct is activated, everybody flies out of there, and our comic ends with everybody saying their goodbyes, as the girls name Dexter and Dee Dee as honorary Powerpuffs. And so all of existence was safe once again, thanks to the combined strength, genius, and button pushing of the Powerpuff Girls. That was Powerpuff Girls Super Smash Up, and yeah, this comic was really good. I'd say this was about the same level of quality as Super Secret Crisis War. The art was pretty good, even if some of the more stylized art takes a while to get used to. Much like Ed, Edd n Eddy in the Super Secret Crisis War comics, some of the more exaggerated art styles aren't replicated 100%, but they're certainly far from bad. It still looks really good. The story itself utilizes the characters well, especially the Powerpuff and Dexter characters. Maybe it's because the connections between the shows already existed there, so it does feel like this could have been an official crossover event. They probably could have done a little bit more with certain worlds, like maybe get Ben 10 or Samurai Jack back. Hell, bring back Ed, Edd n Eddy, or throw in some other characters like Johnny Bravo or Billy and Mandy while you're at it. Though that being said, it is still really neat to see all these worlds collide. One thing I didn't mention throughout this review was the short stories at the end of each issue, mainly because they're pretty funny and decent enough for what they are. Kinda takes me back to the good old days of the Cartoon Network Block Party comics. The Mojo story is really funny, the Courage, Dexter, and Foster stories are pretty entertaining, and the Billy and Mandy story is not only really good, but I love this new art style. I'd love to see a new Billy and Mandy graphic novel with this art. If you want some more Cartoon Network crossover goodness, I highly recommend checking this comic out.
See, I knew you'd love this comic.
Yeah. So, what are we doing next?
If you mentioned it in one of your other Teenage Robot videos, I think that you should do a review on Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl for the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, come on, not this again. I already said that I was going to do one game review this month. Can we please not do a video game for the next episode?
Come on, please.
No, at least not yet.
Okay, fine. I guess we'll just have to try and find something else to talk about for the next video.
Powerpuff! Powerpuff! Listen, Commander and the leader, Bubbles. She is the joy and the laughter. Buttercup, and she's the toughest fighter. Powerpuff saved the day. Fighting crime, trying to save the world. Here they come just in time. The Powerpuff Girls. Fighting crime, trying to save the world. Here they come just in time.
You know, I think we could host Cartoon Fridays.
Oh, I know!
That's really gonna happen.
Oh, you.